All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Brian Thomas. I am learning designer here at TCI. I've been with TCI for 22 years, be 23 very soon, actually, in just a couple months. But I formerly taught social studies just north of Cincinnati, Ohio. That's where I live. I taught middle school social studies for 12 years. And then I made the leap from the classroom, and I've been working with TCI ever since in a variety of different areas. I've worked in sales. I help with professional development. And these days, I work solely on our content team. So I'm excited to have an opportunity to be able to meet with you and present this information. Just some housekeeping items. You're probably old pros at it by now, but just in case you need to know, just to have it reiterated for you, make good use of the Q&A in the chat. Chat is for everybody. Chat is something you want everybody to see as you're responding and reacting, or you're sharing your ideas, which I hope you do, because we learn more when we learn together. The Q&A are questions that specifically you have for TCI staff. So Matt and Ron are going to help me out, and they will stop me and say, hey, could you shut up for a minute, Brian? We got a question right here from Wendy in Michigan, and here it is. And they will give me the questions, and I will do my very best to answer them for you. Now, I'm not going to know everything. And there may be questions that you ask that I simply do not know the answer to, but I will promise you that I will make it my job to find the answers for you. So make good use of the chat and the Q&A. Also, if you need the closed captioning, you can always click on that too, there at the very bottom in your Zoom tools. This session is called College, Career, and Civic Life in the Age of AI. The reason that I wanted to do this session, multi reasons actually. Some of it is very personal. College and career is something that my wife, who's also in education, it's something that is central to her. She's helping to build out a career and technical program for the Archdiocese of Cincinnati and the schools in our neck of the woods, so that students who are going to a Catholic school would have a CTE option for high school if they wanted to. So college and career has always been important to me, not only for the students that I taught, but it's now personally important to me for my family too. And then, of course, civic life, it applies to all of us. And especially with the age of AI, what we are seeing happen as a result of AI impacts every one of us, whether we know it or not. And so what I want to do is I want to get into it. I want to focus on what's changing in education, partly as a result of AI and partly just as time progresses, how education is changing. And then I want to focus in on supports. What are things that you can do? What are things that we can do at TCI to help you prepare your students for college and career and civic life in this age that we're in? So the first half of our presentation will be a little sobering. I'm going to go over some numbers. I'm going to give you some statistics, some things to chew on that might make you a little unsettled, a little uncomfortable if you hadn't seen them before. But it's okay. I don't want you to worry, because I've got really good news in the second half that I think you'll want to hear and feel confident that you can go into this school year knowing that you've got a plan in place. So there'll be plenty of time for you to stop, to chat, to consider, and to even question. And I encourage you to do that throughout. So this is our agenda, but we're going to hop right into it and talk about how the landscape in education is shifting. As we get ready to do that, I have a poll question, and I would love to know if you feel like you would know the answer to this. So I'm going to give you a statement, and if you scan this QR code, we'll be able to view the results live. And it's just a confidence scale. It's not knowing the exact answer. I'm not going to call on any one of you. I'm not going to say, hey, Matt, now what is that answer? How confident are you that you could answer the question is what this is. So the statement is, I know what most of the students who graduated this past year, so class of 26 high school students, I know what most of the students who graduated the high school class of 2026 this year will do next year. How confident are you that you could answer that question or be able to say, yeah, that statement is true for me? And we're going to take a look at what that confidence code looks like. A lot of confidence here, Matt. Ron, looks like we're at about a 3.2 out of 5 from strongly disagree to agree. A lot of people agree that they feel like they know where those students are going. I think a lot of that is a product of the districts that we teach in. The school district that I taught in, Lakota, which is in Westchester, Ohio, about 22 miles so north of Cincinnati, was largely a college prep school district. A lot of kids that went to Lakota would go on and they would go into a 4-year college program or community college. That's where most of the students went. That may not be everybody's bag. So increasingly, we see vocational and CTE programs where students have a different pathway beyond high school. And that may be a school that you're working in. So, how you respond to that statement could be very different, and there's no right or wrong answer. I am happy that we are starting to get to the point to where we're not looking at a one size fits all solution for all students. We can't look at it that way. I'm happy that we offer all of those. And the great thing about what I'm going to be sharing with you is it doesn't matter if you're in a college prep district or most of your students are going to go the career pathway or they're going into the military or they're taking a gap year. It doesn't matter because what they actually need during this age of AI is all the same. So we're going to go ahead. Let's get into it by looking at some of the numbers and how the landscape is changing. So what happens after high school? So 2026, I don't have those statistics, but the last year that I could grab them from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, here's what happened with the class of 24. So there were 3.2 million high school graduates that year. Of them, almost 2/3 went the college pathway. A third did not. So of that 2/3, the 41% went 4-year, 20%, almost 21% really, went into a community college. So that's that kind of 2/3 bit that we saw from that class. 22.4% went right into the workforce. Now, maybe they were in a vocational or a CTE program where they got certification or maybe even graduated high school, not only with a bachelor's or with their high school diploma, but also with an associate's degree or something like that. And so they went right into the workforce. 7% have gone into trades and vocation from that year. 3.7% went in the military. Another 4.1% took the year off. On the right hand side, if you look, one of the things I love about this little infographic is it shows how things have changed over time, or in some cases, how they've stayed very static over time. So if we go back to 2010 and then follow across, we can see that there have been some ebbs and flows with 4-year college and community college, and trade and vocational has been largely static, but it's been on a steady rise, very very minimal, but it's been on a steady rise. One of the things that I think is interesting when we consider all these different statistics and AI is November 30, 2022. That is when GPT was introduced. So a generative AI model. Now, I'm not saying that these statistics changed solely because of ChatGPT, but when you look at, all right, how is the economy doing? Were we in a recession? Were we at war at that time? All these different things that can impact these numbers. This is something that kind of stands out as, all right, if we look at that date and what's happened since then, it's worth bearing watching to see if do these trends continue from that point on, because what we see is the amount of students who are enrolling in a 4-year college started to decrease. that the number of students who are going into community college began to increase after years of a decline. And then, like I said, we've seen that the number of that are students who are going into trades and vocations have been largely static, but on an upward trend, especially as we go back to 2020. Are there any numbers there that kind of stand out to you? Maybe throw that into the chat and throw, hey, that kind of surprises me, or I'm not surprised at all based on the students that I work with in my district. And you may be an elementary teacher, but you're still a teacher in a district or in a school, and those students move on to other places. So is there anything that surprises you in those numbers? And Matt or Ron, I'm going to actually pick on you guys as they're contemplating and maybe typing something into the chat. Is there something in there that you look at and you're like, wow, that's interesting?
I was actually going to type it, but since you put me on, I'm gonna respond. I have a son that's attending a four-year college right now and a senior in high school that's going into the trades. So I was actually shocked that the trades had been static because from what I can see with my sons and all their friends, more kids are going into trades than have in the past. So that was a surprise to me.
Yeah, and the numbers kind of bear that out, but it is a slow increase, certainly not as precipitous as maybe you would think sometimes. What I'm more happy about is that we're starting to see more and more that kids are comfortable in going that route, and that could be because of some very good reasons. In fact, let me share with you some numbers. So, what are the fastest growing jobs right now? The fastest growing jobs in our economy right now, many of them do not require a college degree. So I have here a list of the fastest growing jobs that are out there and projected from 2024 to 2034, again, from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. And here they are. Now, I got to be honest with you. I had no idea that an elevator mechanic could make six figures in a year. Now, of course, that includes a 4 to 5 year union apprenticeship. So it's not like there's not training or that there's not a wait time. But when we're looking at the median salary, that's pretty good, right? Or a turbine technician. If you travel from Cincinnati to Chicago, you will end up north of Indianapolis. You will be on I-65 north into Chicago. And almost that entire stretch, you see nothing but wind turbines out there. There is an increasing number of wind turbines that are out there for wind energy, and there's good money, good pay in something like that. So these are some of the highest paying jobs that are out there. And many of these, like I said, do not require a college degree. Ron, is there one of those that kind of stand out to you like, wow, that's interesting?
Well, yeah, I agree with you with the elevator mechanic. That was very eye-opening for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knew? Who knew?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. That's crazy.
62% of US jobs do not require a degree. Um, so these jobs, though, here's the thing is that part of why some people like the idea of skilled trades and this increase towards vocations is their thought process is that, well, these might be minimally impacted by AI. Service jobs, informational jobs are largely going to be impacted and not these kinds of vocations. I, I don't have comforting news in that AI is coming for all these jobs. It's not AI makes no distinction in looking at those that think and those that do in terms of what jobs that are out there that it could end up being mixed in. But one of the things that I think is important to note is that it really that's kind of secondary is that we need to be preparing students regardless of which path they go because many young people will change their mind and many people will have different jobs throughout their life. The landscape has shifted under our feet The jobs that students, and this was a quote from the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report in 2025, and I love it. They said the job students will hold in 10 years may not exist yet. And the civic challenges that they face are ones that we're only beginning to imagine. Consider from November of 2022 to today, every 12 months, AI capabilities double in their impact. Every 12 months, they double in their impact. We see videos now that are completely AI generated. I even saw a story about an AI actress for a movie, completely done. That would not have been possible even 2 years ago, but it is now because it's happening so fast. 78%. So from 2022, if we consider 100% of all organizations that are out there to today, 78%, including now TCI too, now use AI in some capacity, one way or another. So it's impacting across the board in every type of field that's out there. College and career in terms of a disruption, consider this. Now, I'm not saying that this is a direct link, but it makes you think. This past year in 2025, I should say a year ago, those that graduated college, either their 2 year or their 4 year program, when they went out to go look for work, only 30% of them were able to find full time work in their degreed field immediately. And that was down from 41% the year before. So it dropped 11%. And consider that this did not happen at a time of recession. Okay. So the landscape is shifting. We're seeing that in the job market, but we're also seeing it in our civic life too. Throw into chat something that you saw maybe in social media or a commercial or something like that in the past week that you believe was AI. Is there anything that you can think about that you've seen that like, yeah, I know that was AI. Maybe it was an ad. Maybe it was a posting in social media. Throw into chat. Have you seen something that you believe was AI generated just within the past week? And I can almost guarantee you that every one of you are going to be answering, yeah, something. I've seen something. And as that increases and it's more widely used, it comes with some peril. Deepfakes, AI generated content that may just be slop, algorithmic bias. And if you go to my next session on digital literacy, I'm actually going to get into algorithmic bias and how that actually operates. But all of that is shaping public discourse. All you have to do is to go on to social media and look at content that's posted and how it's commented on to see kind of how that's unfolding. So civic life is under pressure. And of course, our public life in terms of our jobs is under pressure too. Some of these numbers I've talked about, but there's some new ones on here. What I want you to do is I want you to find a number that stands out to you, and I want you to throw it into chat. And you don't have to give me a reason, just give me the number that you see here. Again, I've said this number, the 78% of organizations use AI. I've given you the 30% of the college grads who found work in their field, but these other four would be new. So 40% of workers are going to need to reskill in the next 3 years, especially entry-level roles. 75% of US employers say lifelong learning is now a top hiring priority. 49% of Gen Z believe that there is a reduced value in their college degree, and almost 40%, 37% could get a wage premium in jobs, vocations. There is a 37% wage premium for workers who have demonstrated AI skills in the very same role. So there's some benefit, there's some peril in some of these numbers that you see there. What's most interesting to you? Shauna said the 40%. Dixie said the 75% of the US employers. Yeah, I kind of look at that as a half glass full kind of number there. I like looking at that because hopefully that's what they should have been looking at before. But of course, maybe some of them were not. Um, so I give you all of that to then say, okay, let's take a deep breath. It's okay. What students actually need, the best way that we can prepare them for this age of AI is to give them what they've always needed and to reinforce it. Because what good teaching has always been about is building durable skills with our students. These are skills that machines can't automate. And it's something that every good teacher builds every day. In fact, if we were to go back in time to ancient history and the first students and their teacher drawing in the sand with graphic organizers, good teaching is timeless and it builds durable skills that involve critical thinking, that involve communication and collaboration, that require inquiry and evidence, and that also lean heavily on ethical reasoning. These are durable skills that, as teachers, if we emphasize, will apply regardless of where students go. So if you're in a college prep school and most of your students are going to go to a 4 or a 2-year college program, if you do a lot of communication and collaboration inside your classroom, you're helping to prepare those students for the seminars, for the group research, for peer reviews. But here's the thing. If you're at a CTE program or a vocational school, they're getting ready for cross-functional teams and human AI workflows. That same emphasis on communication and collaboration applies equally to both. It's a durable skill. And of course, the payoff for all of us as a society is that it has civil intent too, that it involves civil discourse, being able to disagree in an agreeable way, to be able to debate, and to be able to organize and solve problems together. So each one of these four here, critical thinking, inquiry and evidence, ethical reasoning, and of course, communication and collaboration, these are the durable skills that our students actually need in the age of AI. But it's what we needed 10 years ago. It's what we needed 20 years ago. It's what we needed when I graduated school and when anyone else has gone through an education program or has been in school. These are durable skills. So let's take a chat stop. And I want you to take 2 to 3 minutes and you're going to type your response into the chat and we'll share a few of these out loud. Ron, Matt, you just start interrupting as people start sharing. But I want you to think about one student that you currently teach and what is a skill that you hope they carry with them when they leave you and they go on, a skill that's going to help them thrive in any of those pathways, career, college, or as a citizen in this world that's now being shaped by AI. What are some of the things that you hope they carry with them, the skills that you teach? So take a few moments, type in your responses and throw them in there into the chat.
Hey Brian, Amanda wanted to know if you could go back one slide for a second just so she could see it.
Yeah, yep. This one right here.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
And Megan typed in critical thinking and active listening, kindness. Boy, we need a world of kindness, most certainly. I hope my seniors carry with them the skills to identify how to best plan financially, right? And that involves critical thinking. That involves analysis. Those are durable skills. Yeah. Critical thinking paired with inquiry and curiosity, absolutely. The ability to evaluate information and ID misinformation, yes, increasingly so. Critical thinking skills, empathy, logical reasoning, non-biased reasoning, yeah. My first one, Stephanie said, will always be kindness and then critical thinking as well. Love it. When you have good people do things right, success is just a matter of time. When good teachers use good pedagogy, we prepare our students for the world that we want. And that is the good news in all of that. Those statistics that I shared before, AI is going to it's going to touch everything that we do. But that's because technology and new inventions and innovations, they always do. What we can't change is who we are and what our students need. So these are the skills that our students absolutely have to have for the world that we need them in. So thank you so much for sharing that. So let me talk to you a little bit about, now that I've shared a little bit about how you can support your students, let me share with you how TCI supports you in these very same goals. First of all, it goes back to our start. When Bert founded TCI back in 1989, they started really by focusing in on educational theory and how we can make that practical and how we can make it meaningful inside the classroom. So our TCI approach, our pedagogical compass, if you will, is all built on research and design for this active classroom. If you think back to your methods coursework, you probably learned about Jerome Bruner and the spiraled curriculum, that you start simple and you build to complex. You might have looked at multiple modalities, or what used to be called in some cases multiple intelligence theory, cooperative interaction. Dr. Elizabeth Cohen spent a lot of time in research looking at how we learn more when we learn together, that we provide clear learning goals, and that we give students lots of rich opportunities, both linguistically and non-linguistically, with graphic organizers and big ideas. This approach, the TCI approach, which is all encompassing, is something that drives how we build everything. So when I sit down and I create a lesson for TCI as a developer, we build it based on our approach, and then we involve our strategies. Or if we're building a science lesson, we have our specific pathway there as well, which I'll share. But our approach is kind of our foundation. This is our foundation, that is really the basis of everything that we do at TCI. Now, if you teach social studies specifically, then when you look at your program, you're going to see that there are 6 strategies that we use when we develop a lesson. Some are very visual based, some are built around skills, being able to teach content, but also map analysis or data analysis at the same time. That we will teach a skills lesson, or it could be a response group activity where the students are discussing and debating a complex or a controversial topic. That's a strategy. We have the experiential exercise, which typically taps very and leans heavily into the body kinesthetic experience that students have. The chance for students to be able to do authentic writing assignments, what we call writing for understanding. And then, of course, a problem-solving group work strategy, that where students are given a product or a project that they have to create, and they have to do so in small groups, and they work towards that together. So every one of your TCI programs has these 6 strategies. Some lessons, there are elements of multiple strategies in the same lesson, but every TCI lesson is not only based on the TCI approach, but also involves this strategy, and they all go towards the same thing: helping to build critical thinking, collaboration, communication, all of those durable skills that we focused on before. I'll give you an example. Let's say you teach elementary social studies. We've got a wonderful upper elementary lesson that students learn about financial literacy, and they learn about supply and demand as they recreate a market inside the classroom where students are selling apples and there are plenty of buyers available. And they learn about this process in a very fun, fast moving experience inside the class. And it takes about 10, 15 minutes. There's a couple of different rounds where they learn a little bit about how supply can change and how demand can change in a second round a little bit later. But afterwards, when the discussion is happening, the students are talking and they're sharing and they're laughing and they're focusing on the questions that you provide. It's all built around this rich experience that builds those skills. We do it for science too. Our NGSS programs are AI readiness programs, really, because when you look at NGSS and how it's broken down into the three-dimensional learning, the science and engineering practices, the core ideas, and the cross-cutting concepts, it's kind of built on those same approaches that we use in the TCI strategies, except this is social studies strategies, except this is geared towards science. But it does the very same thing. It's phenomena first learning. It's hands-on, not just minds-on. It's data analysis. And of course, there's always plenty of opportunities for civic connections. And again, give you an example. And one of my favorite TCI middle school science activities is an engineering project where the students are put into small design teams. And what they are told to do is that they have to engineer a camera that could go to outer space and take footage that would be used in a movie that's going to be like a sci-fi movie, outer space kind of movie, but it's got to be able to re-enter Earth's atmosphere, go through all the G's of the gravity experience and be able to survive so that they can get that footage. What they do is it's kind of like the egg drop lesson turned on its head. They'll actually have an egg that will be the camera. They're given a container and they're given lots of options for materials that they can design their camera for. The students in their small groups, they work on modeling and coming up with different potential models. They test materials. They iterate on a design process and try to improve it so that their camera will survive re-entry. It's a great way to build those same durable skills that we've talked about. So these are lesson activities and strategies that undergird everything that we create for you. But the tools themselves inside the TCI app should do so as well. And that's why our digital platform and our notebooks and our differentiated support, all of those things are meant to do the very same thing. Support you as you're teaching those lessons so that you can focus on being the best teacher that you can be and be able to get those students ready. So all of these are involved all along the way. So let me give you some action steps and some additional resources before we take any kind of questions, and then I get you out of here. First, when I say start this week, your school may not have started this week. Now, some of you do. In fact, I know some schools are already back in session. And for some of you, probably like Matt up in Michigan, you're looking at that going, what in the world? We don't start before Labor Day. But there are a lot of schools out there that start pretty early. Some even do year round where they take multiple breaks throughout the year. So when I say practical tips starting this week, think about that first week of school. First is add an AI lens to existing discussions that you have. So for example, a TCI response group strategy, you could challenge your students in small groups to talk about, could AI have generated this source? When you're looking at a primary source and when you're looking at a secondary source, how would you know if it wasn't? Because when you're doing a primary source analysis, we want to help students get ready to be able to spot deep fakes and things like that. So how can we help to encourage that? Well, you have to remember that repetition is the mother of skill. And so the only way that we're going to get these durable skills taught is if we give them plenty of opportunity to do so. And so that would be an example of starting. Or make thinking visible. Use the TCI notebook pages to document reasoning, putting mind maps and things like that, not just answers. Allowing students to metacognate and practice that skill, it's irreplaceable. Or if I slide over into something more science specific, especially as it relates to civic questions, our science phenomena-based lessons always connect to some sort of a civic issue going on. So you could challenge your students. What policy decisions does this science inform? Who should decide this? And talk about that together as a class. So these are practical tips that you can use just in week one and start from there. So it doesn't have to be something complex. You don't have to do a full-fledged unit or anything like that specific to building durable skills. It needs to follow naturally just in what you're doing inside your class every day. So let's take a moment and let's chat again. Chat stop number 2. So I'm going to have you pick. I'm going to give you 3 prompts, but you're only going to pick one, and you're going to share your response to that. So I'm going to give you a choice on what question you answer in the chat. So option A, which of the 5 practical tips, these right here, which of those tips could you use in your next lesson? So think beyond even that first couple of days, what that first lesson is going to look like. Is there something that you could do? What would it look like inside your classroom? And think about your age students and kind of what their capabilities are, how you might alter the question to be able to fit their age appropriateness and the content that you're teaching. Question B, or option B, how does a TCI strategy that you already use connect to a skill that students need for college, career, or civic life? Is there something you already notice when your students have used TCI, if you're a veteran user, that is already working for you? What is that? Answer that. Or answer option C. What's one question that your students have asked about AI? And how could you turn it into an inquiry? So you're going to pick option A, B, or C. What do you want to go with there? And how would you answer the question? So you just put the letter A and then what your answer would be, or you can even share it out loud like Matt is right now. So Matt, I'm going to pick on you again. Matt, which of these questions would you want to answer here?
I would want to see, how does the TCI strategy you already use connect to a skill that a student would need for college, career, civic life in the AI world?
All right. So Matt, you taught 8th grade for a very long time too. Think about it, TCI activity and something that you did that helped to build that durable skill. What was it?
Well, I really lean towards the response group strategy.
Yep.
It's one of the 6 strategies, but what I like about that strategy, and just because you pointed me out for 8th grade, one of the things that comes to mind is the lesson on the reform movements and women's suffrage
Yep.
in 19th century, where you get put kids in groups of 3 and they are obviously looking for data that they can use to support a claim one way or another about something that's been redressed since the Seneca Falls Convention or whatever. But then they might not necessarily agree with people in their group or even in other groups. And then that choosing to take a stand and to make a claim and then backing it up with evidence that is provided and being able to articulate that back, I still think is, I know that AI is taking all these entry level jobs and everything, but I really feel like being able to think and communicate and adapt is so human, and I'm optimistic that that's not going away, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think you're exactly right, and I love that lesson. That's a great one. The response group strategy is a powerful one because discussion starts in small groups. It helps to build consensus, and then there is a large group sharing afterwards. If you've never done a response group lesson, it's kind of how they all operate, and they focus on not a ton of questions. Usually there's only 2 or 3 questions for the whole lesson. And what they do is they go deep on that one question and they get a chance to, like I said, talk with other peers in small groups so that even students who aren't confident in standing up in front of their classmates and sharing out loud, it builds their confidence because they're doing so in a small group. It's much safer. They feel like they've got a safety net. And then when the large group speaks out, They have to work on their listening skills. So that's a great one to kind of point out there. You may have others as you're progressing. So I want you to be thinking about those. Let me give you some extension tips for you to consider as well this week, this month, this semester slash year. One, obviously, and I put it this week, if you don't already know it, you should, and you need to find out what are your school or your state or your district's guidelines around AI use. Um, it's here. Students access it whether we want them to or not sometimes. What are your policies around it? And if your district doesn't have a policy, they don't have a plan. So what, and I'm sure they probably do. Most districts at this point now have some sort of a policy or a plan in use. And so you need to review yours, make sure that you know what you're held accountable to and what the students are held accountable to. Try notebook prompt with students out. What's one question that AI can't answer for you? That's a great one to throw out in that first week of school. Because some students they walk away thinking that Claude or that Chat GPT can answer anything. There are some questions that it can answer, and so what do they think are questions that AI cannot answer? Something to consider this month. Redesign a question or a writing discussion or a task with an authentic audience in mind. When students do authentic writing experiences, that is one of the best ways that you can build durable skills because it often involves many and all at once of those durable skills. Inquiry in the research process, right? Certainly collaboration as they work with others and do peer reviews. Communication, obviously, in and of itself, is kind of wired into the idea of doing some sort of a writing task. But having an authentic audience, like could be a podcast or it could be a poster board of some sort that they have to build. You want to build an authentic audience and a writing task. That's one of the best ways that you can build durable skills, free and easy. And a lot of times you'll see it at the end of every TCI lesson in what we call the processing or show what you know moments at the end of a lesson. Now, if you come to the next session, I'm going to be doing a session on AI and digital literacy. We have a free lesson that we are going to be sharing in that session. It will be a part of that session at the end, but I'm going to give you a little sneak peek and I'll even throw it into the chat. You can actually access it there. There's a free lesson that I wrote on AI and digital literacy that you can use with your students. This semester, this year, build inquiry and phenomena projects around AI's impact in society. That would be something that you could plan for a little bit later on and with a content focus, of course, too. You don't want to just leave that behind. It needs to be interconnected. Now, the other things that you could do throughout the year is talk with us, talk with each other, and share. And so to do that, connect with us. And I'm going to throw in the link for you to be able to connect with the TCI community. And then I'm also going to throw in a link to our webinars. That's another way in which you can do that is connect with us on our webinars that we'll have throughout the year too. They're going to touch on a lot of different topics. Obviously, only one of them is going to probably touch on AI as a separate tool, not native tool within TCI, but they all are going to be aligned around that support idea of helping you to provide the content and the skills that students need to move beyond and be ready for college careers and civic life. So, are there any open questions and Q&A, Matt, Ron, that I could answer before we kind of knock off?
No, not in Q&A, but just some fantastic comments in the chat, responses to the questions about maybe data centers and their impact on the environment,
Sure.
or questions about AI and art and its impact on art and creatives and things like that. So really great stuff.
Yeah, that's near and dear to my heart. I've got three adult children now. Two of them graduated with art degrees. One very physical art, and another they're a digital content creator. Um, but yeah, they're starting to experience that firsthand for themselves. They all of them have all three of them have seen certainly the rise of AI and how it's impacting their life. But two of them most directly, especially with art. So that's interesting. Well, keep in mind um, that you're probably going to have some questions. You can always keep that conversation going. Please reach out with us and talk. We're not going to always be the purveyors of the answers, and so we're right there with you as we start to explore these questions too. And if you've got a question that we can't answer, I can promise you we'll make it our job to find the answer for you. And remember, the future your students will inhabit, it's being shaped right now. It's being shaped by you and by what you do inside your classroom. Thank you so much for attending this session. If you want, you can go ahead and in just a few moments, you're going to be able to go to your third period class. Don't forget, get a chance to be able to get those entries in, build up those chances for that $50 gift card. Join the TCI Facebook group. That's one way, and sharing something that maybe you learned in this session. Check out the PD that we put in app. And if you could, before you leave, just reflect, comment in the chat and explain why you picked your reflection about today's session, 1 through 6 there. Which one are you? And what I like about this, Matt, you will appreciate this, not so much you, Ron, but I like that all these guys are bald. I like every one of these are bald guys. That's how you know they're happy, right? But maybe you learned something that kind of blew your mind, or you're just sweating like I do in the summertime, or maybe you're pensive. But what's a reaction that you have 1 through 6, if you could throw it in there? And let me go ahead and then get to the last group of slides there. So if you're going to share at Teach TCI for Facebook, at Teach_TCI for Instagram. Just make sure you use the hashtag TCI Summit 26, and that'll give you another chance to be able to get a $50 gift card. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and throw in the link here for you to be able to join your very next session, the last session of the day, session 3. Thank you all so much. And Ron, Matt, thank you guys too. Thank you for letting me pick on you and have you share out loud. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, everyone. Go ahead and head to third period.